Good evening, everyone. Today is May 16th, 2016, and welcome back to Veterans Voices, a monthly talk show focusing on veterans issues. I'm Nathan Johnson, the Contra Costa County Veteran Service Officer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Gold Star father, Kevin Graves.
Thank you, Nathan. Tonight we are discussing veteran service organizations, and we'd love to hear from you. Are you involved in a local post or chapter? Contact us and we'll put your organization's info on our website. And if you're a veteran needing information about how to get involved, we'd love to assist you. Call, email, or anonymous chat with us. The information appears on your screen.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll be taking your calls throughout tonight's show. We have a great panel of guests tonight. In fact, we have the real warriors on our set tonight who represent various veteran service organizations in the area. Welcome, JR and Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First time on the show for you, Murph. JR, you've been on the show one other time, back during our VetCon episode.
Oh, sure. I'm a celebrity.
But although you've been on the episode or on the show before, JR, give us a brief overview of your service in the military.
I was in 1994 in the United States Army, military intelligence, went airborne, had different disabilities with that, and joined the Disabled American Veterans, and that's how I got started in the veterans world.
You were saying a little bit earlier you had 38 jumps.
Yeah, 38 jumps.
38 jumps out of a perfectly good airplane out Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg. I actually injured myself on the 20th jump, and then the rest of my jumps were water jumps. I tore my ACL, my MCL on a jump.
What's a water jump?
We're basically where you jump into water.
It's
Nathan.
really complicated, Nathan.
I mean, okay. I jump in the water all the time. I jump off the end of the dock, you know, but I didn't know the Army did the same thing.
The landing zone, drop zone will be
very good.
Water.
Murph, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
First time guest. Fill us in about your service in the military.
Drafted out of college, 1967. Trained at Fort Bliss, Texas. Advanced training at Fort Polk, Louisiana. Did jump school, did only six. Only?
How many times you jump in the water?
Didn't get to jump in any water, no. And fortunately, I got through that a little shorter, but not too injured.
Oh, absolutely.
And then got orders for Vietnam. So I landed January the 8th, 1968, just a few days before the start of TET, and was assigned to the 1st to 28th Infantry, 1st Infantry Division, where I spent the next 14 months.
What part of Vietnam were you in?
We were located about 65 miles north of Saigon, right near the Cambodian border, which, contrary to rumors, we danced over constantly.
But imagine you have quite some stories, both of you. And I appreciate you being on the show tonight. Tonight's episode is a very special episode in which we really want to have a conversation about the history, the importance, and really the day-to-day responsibilities that our veteran service organizations have. And I'm a life member of VFW, a life member of AMVET, so I get to belong to two of the organizations. And we're joined tonight by DAV, Disabled American Veterans. We were supposed to have Janet Wilson on our show tonight. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it. But we were supposed to have the first female state commander of the American Legion, from what I understand. And I know that we're missing some of the other organizations, AMVETS, Paralyzed Veterans of America. So we invite you to call in. If you represent one of the other organizations not represented here, if you're a member of the American Legion, AMVETS, for example, Paralyzed Veterans of America, call in tonight. We want to hear about your role in these veteran service organizations.
Terry, you're here tonight representing the Veterans of Foreign Wars. You're a post commander, is that correct?
I'm a past post commander of VFW Post 8063, which is for all of Lafayette, Moraga, Orinda, and Walnut Creek. And I'm currently the senior vice commander for the entire district, which is San Francisco, Alameda, and Contra Costa counties.
So tell us a little bit about the history of what the main organizations that we consider the chartered organizations, and how that came about, the demand, what prompted the need to feel that there need to be a veteran service organization.
Well, there's actually a couple reasons why these organizations get organized. One of them, of course, is the camaraderie for those of you who have a shared experience. Another is mutual aid, trying to help each other. And there's also the realization that banding together with people with a shared experience gives you far more resources to make a difference, both with your fellow veterans and with your community at large. So those are some of the reasons why they all got together. Ours might be the oldest, but we were all chartered, DAV, American Legion, at the same time. So we've all been here for a very, very long time, and as the veteran service officer for my post, really the purpose is to help veterans, to get them not just the camaraderie, but the services that they need, the help that they need, whatever it is that they might need. So as the service officer, that's my job, just like it is with the other organizations.
And JR, you and I have worked on a lot of different projects in the area because we're both local guys, kind of East Contra Costa guys, but you've been with DAV for quite a while, and your history is pretty similar, not quite as old, but chartered at the same time. Isn't that
Absolutely.
correct?
All the
when was that?
Most of the organizations were chartered in 1932. The VFW is one of the older organizations. The DAV got started in 1920. With the VFW got started, I believe, 1898 or
98, I believe.
1898. But we all got chartered in 1932. Absolutely.
Well, we're talking about charter, but what are we really talking about? What is a charter?
It means recognized by Congress. It's when we were recognized by Congress.
And that gives you gives you access, for one thing. I know that for sure. But what does that mean to the people that you serve? What kind of power or what kind of benefits does that? How does that benefit the average individual?
For one of the things, it assures you as far as donations and different things like that in the community. A lot of people want to make donations and do their part to help the veteran service organizations. And one of the nice things about those organizations that were chartered in 1932 is they've been around for forever. So that's one of the things.
We're talking about World War I veterans at that point, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of those, I think the VFW was started by the Spanish-American War veterans, and then the DAV was started by World War I veterans. Yeah.
Wow.
Fantastic.
So over 100 years of service for the VFW, and in the next decade or so, almost 100 years for the DAV. So there's legitimacy to these organizations. Yeah. They're congressionally recognized and are afforded certain privileges, right, to that charter. Give us an idea of when they were started and chartered. What was the charter based on? I know camaraderie is one of the things, but what were these organizations really founded for, and why a Veterans of Foreign War and a disabled American veteran and an American Legion? Meaning, although they're chartered around the same time, what common purpose did they have, or what differences?
It's really to fulfill the promises that our government has made to our soldiers and their families. You know, we do a lot of very similar things, but I think that's the main goal, is to provide those services and those promises that our government said, hey, you're in the military, you became injured or you served honorably. There is certain benefits that you have earned.
And for us, it's recognizing that we cannot expect government alone to be able to take care of our veterans. They're doing a better and better job, but back when we were chartered, and even before that, there was very little available to the veteran in terms of services to be able to meet their needs. So it was up to the organizations to be able to step in and try to make a difference. And they've really been very successful at doing that. The other part of the equation is once we were chartered, it gave us access politically. And that access allowed us to get in the halls of government and try to influence the passage of bills that would benefit veterans, would provide the funding that was needed to take care of that need, and that's a positive thing. And it doesn't hurt that our organizations, I believe, are both 501s, okay?
501c19s.
So whatever donations we get from the public
nonprofit organization,
are nonprofit
tax
donations, and it makes it a little bit easier to be able to collect what you need.
The organizations also join forces as far as presenting a budget to Congress for veterans issues as well. So a lot of times those organizations will be working together.
Is there something called the Big Five? Is there something, I'm kind of remembering that maybe there's like the Big Five of veteran service organizations. Does that sound familiar? Or are DAV and VFW and American Legion
we definitely have
some of the largest?
The grandfathers ones, they try to work together, and I think the big three would be the American Legion and the DAV and the VFW. But the AMVETS, you know, they got started in 1947. But they are our brothers and our sisters as well.
Now, not to talk about it in a dividing way, but again, what are some of the differences? What does it take to be a member of VFW, and what does it take to be a member of DAV, or is it the same criteria?
No, it is not.
It's very, very similar criteria. I'll speak for the VFW since I'm the service officer there. For you to be a member of the VFW, you have to have served in the military in an area of conflict during that conflict. And if you have, it doesn't make any difference which branch you may have served with, including the Coast Guard. You can ask for and be given membership to the VFW.
Okay, so having served during an area of conflict, in the area of conflict, so Vietnam, for example.
Yes.
Okay.
And the DAV would just be simply you have to have service in a wartime service, and have a disability that was incurred due to your military service.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is there a percentage that is required?
No, it can
0%?
be 0%. As long as it's a disability that is incurred during your wartime service.
Does it have to be recognized by the VA? Say, is there a veteran who maybe has a service-related disability, but they're not yet service-connected for it?
It has to be identified by a DAV service officer. Some veterans do not want to progress and file their claim.
So even if they don't want to file a claim, if the DAV...
As long as it's a disability that was incurred during service.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Both of our organizations, we basically qualify the people to become members. And while we look out primarily for the members of each of our organizations, because that's our reason for being, the reality is, as a service officer, any veteran could come to me, whether they served overseas, whether they belong to the VFW, whether they're DAV, it doesn't make any difference. And we will attempt to find them the services that they need without worrying about what organization they belong to. That's our job as service officers of the VFW.
So, yeah, so that, to answer that question, then it's totally unrelated to whatever the VA says. When I say the VA, I mean the federal government says they are or aren't with regards to disability or service or anything else, because you qualify them. And a lot of times you'll qualify them first before they have an opportunity to even talk to you about filing a claim or comp and pen or something like that.
If you get a World War II veteran that does not want to go into the halls of the government and file a claim, is that going to preclude him or her from joining a veteran service organization? And I would argue absolutely not.
Right.
The reality is, fairly often we have veterans who are in need, have a crisis of some kind, and we are, because of what we do, aware of the other services that are out there that have nothing to do with being a veteran or have just an oblique relationship to their veteran service. And we can do that. We can help them.
Well, we'll talk more in a little bit. I'd like to talk, when we come back, talk about maybe the structure of these organizations, you know, at a local level, at a national level, maybe even talk about some of the things that these organizations are working on today. But I think we're out of time for this segment.
Okay. Well, I want to remind you that we are taking your calls live tonight. If you're involved with a veteran service organization or a veteran wanting to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. Now we'd like to share a public service announcement from the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the Veterans of Foreign Wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
We're a different post, and I think we need to recognize that, and I'm not afraid to do things differently. And I think the alum that we have coming along with us, that the more traditional guys belong to traditional posts in their hometown, and they're not going to change. The guys that are attracted to us are not yet involved with the Legion or are not active because the activities that their traditional posts in their hometown don't appeal to them.
I think that's the way the American Legion is going to connect with this younger generation, is through the service piece, service to others. We've got a lot of room to grow. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg, I hope. I mean, when, again, you think back to the history of this institution and the number of veterans that are out there that are associated with it, again, we're still in the building process.
Really, Norwich had a Legion post in 1919. We had a post here, Moses Taylor Post. We don't know exactly how long it lived for, but it's back again. We have a lot of Guard guys and gals that are here as student veterans. I want to kind of expand our mentorship program so that we can help them along establishing what in effect becomes a second career for them.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices, where tonight we're discussing veterans service organizations, the real warriors. If you're just tuning in, we'll be taking your calls live throughout tonight's show.
So tell me a little bit about how you personally got involved with the organizations you each got involved with, and then how do you do your outreach, and how do people become members, and then how does that structure work its way up to a national level to where you have that representation?
Sure, Kevin. I started off, when I got out of the military, I had disabilities, obviously. I was working at the post office. I thought that the guy at the post office said, why don't you go down to the DMV? for real. I thought it was the DMV. I'm like, why would I go to the DMV? And they said, no, it was the DAV.
Got it.
And I was in Alexandria, Virginia, working as a letter carrier. I went across the bridge into Washington, D.C. I had a background in military intelligence, so I had every single piece of evidence that I could possibly scribbled out, this is the reason why this and this and that. And I went in there and I actually saw John Milia. John Milia said, well, why don't you think about working for the DAV? I mean, a letter carrier, doing a lot of walking, there's leg injuries. So I said, really?
Not a bad idea.
All right, not a bad idea. So I did that. I joined our local chapter, Chapter 10 in Northern Virginia, which was a godsend. They do wonderful things, and they're still doing wonderful things. And that is how I started out with the DAV on a national level as a national service officer. They had an academy back then. They sent us to Denver, Colorado for 4 months. Taught us anatomy, physiology, law, how to speak, public speaking. Became a national service officer in the Roanoke, Virginia office. Worked real hard, started a homeless veterans program in the state of Virginia. Was promoted to supervisor in Reno. I did that in 2 years. That was pretty good. Then after that, I went to San Diego and became the supervisor in San Diego. Actually left the organization, came back to rejoined the organization on a fraternal side, and that's where it's more of the local side and the different departments. Climbed my way up there, became a chapter commander for my home city of Pittsburgh, California, where I grew up. That was quite an honor. And then later I became the state senior vice commander, and then in June I became the commander for the state of California on their state level. So there was a lot of opportunities for the time when I joined. I was 26 years old, Persian Gulf era veteran. A lot of the Vietnam era veterans were getting ready to retire in those responsibilities. So that's another thing, and we still have that today. For the younger veteran that is looking for that sort of civic responsibility, we served our country. Now, how do we serve our community? In this case, it's our veterans community. That resonated with me, and then that's one of the reasons why I kept pursuing that service to our veterans community. Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that you actually reached out to the DAV for help yourself and ended up becoming a helper, as a national service officer. Was there something particular about the DAV and their mission that I'm bringing this up because we've had past shows in which we've talked about the service element that is involved in veterans' lives.
Service beyond oneself. It really meant a lot to me. I grew up in East Contra Costa County, really a blue-collar family. Father was a janitor at LMC. He always taught us to make our community better. So that really resonated. When they were able to reach out to me as an organization and lift me up, they really, you know, as we get discharged as a veteran, that makes us a veteran, right? But then how do we serve our veterans community? And that's where that organization, the DAV, really came in and molded me as a young man. And we learned our leadership in the military, but we learned how to serve our veterans community and our veteran service organizations.
Yeah, fantastic story.
How about you, Murph?
Little bit of a different story. I didn't start at the top. I kind of started at the bottom. I returned to this country at the end of February of '69 and got out of the Army at the same time that I returned. I took advantage of an early out program. And the climate in this country in spring of 1969 for a combat veteran from Vietnam wasn't really conducive to wanting to be recognized as a veteran. So for the longest time, about 6 years, I was a veteran to my friends and my family, to myself, but beyond that, I wasn't. And after a time, actually got into the early 80s, I found a number of other veterans in my area who had decided that they were proud of their service and they wanted to be part of an organization that recognized their service. And we all decided that the VFW was probably a pretty good choice for us. So we went to the Walnut Creek VFW post and wanted to join. And I don't want to defame them, but the reality is we weren't treated very well. We weren't recognized by those veterans, who most of whom were World War II, as being veterans who had fought in a war. So we left a little disgruntled. And rather than give it up, we decided, well, we're in Lafayette, why don't we form our own post?
Oh, interesting.
So I'll shorten the story considerably by saying that we get chartered as a post in 1985. We joined with the American Legion in Lafayette to use that building, which is an old WPA building. And eventually 2 of the members, myself and the late Art Miller, worked to get the new Veterans Building built in Lafayette. And eventually that Walnut Creek post ended up being folded into ours, which is why we represent
Ironic.
Walnut Creek. So one of the reasons why we did it was the camaraderie and the shared experience. But another reason that a lot of us decided that we wanted to be part of the VFW was it gave us far more resources to be able to make a difference, to be in service to not only our local veterans, but also to our communities. So a good example of that is we help local veterans. We provide funding for the clinic across the freeway. We provide funding for the Polytrauma Center down in Palo Alto. We provide opportunities for local scouts. We do a lot of things. We also carry the flag and have since the city of Orinda became a city. So we do a lot of things in the community that individually we wouldn't be able to accomplish, but together we can manage to do quite nicely.
I think one of the great things to point out is that on one of our previous episodes of the show, we were talking about this walk from Santa Cruz to Sacramento to raise awareness for suicide, and your VFW post stepped right in and offered these guys an evening meal when they were staying over in Benicia. So I think it's a phenomenal example of the way that these individuals pull together as a group and say that they're gonna make their communities better. I think that's phenomenal. My story is not as great as that. I just simply got, invited by a World War II vet, and he said, "Hey, I'll pay your first year dues if you be a VFW member."
Not a bad deal.
But I'll tell you what. I still owe those guys. I really do. In fact, my membership is still with that post, and it's my hometown of Georgetown, California, way up in the woods, and I've been offered by many, many local VFWs, well, you can transfer your membership, but I'm still loyal to those guys that brought me in and made me an annual member. And I didn't go to a meeting or pay dues for several years, and I became a life member right before they raised the rate. That was the perfect opportunity to take advantage. But I think it's fantastic that you mentioned this being both an individual or kind of a group effort. What is the structure? And you mentioned being a National Service Officer and a post commander. What is the structure? We've just got a couple minutes before we go to another break, but what is the structure of these organizations, the basic structure?
Sure. Normally you have a national side and you have a fraternal side. The fraternal side of the organization normally consists of a chapter or a post.
Okay.
Right? And then those chapters and those posts can belong to a district,
okay,
if you will, or a state that's part of the state executive committee. The DAV kind of changed it a little bit.
Right.
And then you have a department, which is at a state level. Right, and then so then you have 50 departments or 50 states within the national organization,
okay,
and then you have the national staff, which would be your legislative directors, your national adjutant, your national commanders, and the commanders change every year. Where the national staff, the adjutant or the quartermaster will stay on for periods of time.
And ours is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, that's great stuff. Great personal touch to that stuff. Really love to hear how you guys got involved. We're going to take a quick break to share a public service announcement from disabled American veterans. We're still taking your calls, emails, and anonymous chats. The information appears on your screen.
This is Pete.
Hey, guys.
And this is Paul.
Hi, everybody.
And both are veterans. Pete here doesn't belong to any veteran service organization. Paul is a member of DAV. Hooray! Pete's idea of veterans advocacy is complaining about veterans issues on social media. Paul sees more value in meeting with elected officials to discuss proposed legislation that will positively impact veterans. Hooray! Pete gets his information from questionable sources. Paul reviews the toolkit on DAV's new grassroots website to improve the effectiveness of his advocacy efforts. Paul is a member of DAV's Benefits Protection Team. Pete, well, we're not really sure what Pete does. Don't be a Pete. Be a Paul. Go to dav.org/grassroots to find out how you can become a member of DAV's Benefits Protection Team. After all, preserving our benefits begins with you.
Well, welcome back again to Veterans Voices, and thank you for joining us. We know there's a lot of television out there tonight, but tonight you chose to watch Veterans Voices, and we get the chance to have a real conversation about the real warriors, our veteran service organizations. Before we continue with our discussion, I'd like to give a special thanks to our viewer advisory panel. This is a group of viewers who provide our show with valuable feedback and opinions so we can make this show stronger and more valuable to you. If you'd like to be on our viewer advisory panel, it's simple. Go to our website and sign up. You'll be sent a brief survey after every new show. We'll even be hosting a barbecue for all of our viewer panelists this summer. Go to our website for more information.
So, guys, as we get back to talking about your organizations, we're giving a lot of information about it, but not necessarily how to get there. So most of, I don't know, JR, if you guys also work out of a county building or not? Or?
You know, it's the Veterans United building in Pittsburgh. We have organizations that share it, though.
Yeah, but that's what my point is that many of the organizations, especially the big three, the DAV and American Legion and VFW, Veteran Foreign Wars, typically meet in buildings that are provided to you by the county or by the city. Is that correct? And those are buildings that are open to veterans organizations to use, and people can find those buildings by doing what?
Well, you can find those buildings by looking into the yellow pages, looking online.
The what?
Those yellow pages.
Yellow
those things
pages.
that you
Yellow pages. I'm too young for that. So.
Yeah, just Google it, Kevin.
You can find nearly every one of the posts' locations by going online and looking for the post by city. Most of the larger cities will have a VFW post. They won't be in every city, but they will be usually centrally located. So a good example is right here in Martinez, you have a VFW post located downtown. And you're right, most of the buildings where we're located are county-owned buildings that were built using a half-cent sales tax after World War I.
Wow.
As it was collected.
Wow, that's a lot in World War I, half-cent.
A long time ago. So you see a lot of older WPA-built and other buildings. Some of the buildings have been acquired either by cities, Danville, or by the veterans themselves out in Antioch. Right. So you'll find a variety of different ownership, but the vast majority of them are owned, in my experience, by the counties in which they were created, because they were created using that money way back in 1928.
Yep.
And
We have a copy of that resolution in our office. You got to come down and see it. The board passed a resolution doing exactly what you said, creating a post in every location where there's an American Legion post.
Yeah, this was
or a
all
building wherever there's
part of trying to help out the veterans in ways that it was recognized way back when that the veterans' needs were not being met. Even with our organizations, they weren't being met. So counties stepped up, and the state provided the opportunity by making it easier to pass it. And that's why we have in the state of California so many veterans memorial buildings and so many veterans service officers.
And there are a lot of challenges that go along with being involved in organizations like this. First of all, most of you are volunteers in both organizations. Most of you give because you feel like you want to give back, and you want to. It's vets helping vets. And some of the challenges that people, I would like to mention AMVETS as we talk about the different organizations, because their membership tends to be a little more open from the standpoint of it's not a combat mandated organization. So there's organizations out there, VSOs, that you can find that you can plug into, depending on what your particular type of service was, when you served, where you served, how you served. But what kind of challenges do you guys run into with regards to not only your current membership, but trying to reach out to some of the more recently separated service members that may not know the advantages of being able to, that camaraderie you're talking about? They may be lost out there, you know?
I think some of that is, you know, as a veteran, when we get out of the military, we want to go home. We want to be home. We want to de-escalate. We want to basically have a stand down for ourselves. And sometimes that takes a variety of time for that person to come back to that. With a variety of reasons for if they have PTSD or different things, dealing with that. Getting the word out is what we do as organizations. County Veteran Service Officers with Nathan and stuff like that, getting those different, I know he does a lot with the Danville VFW as well. And so those are some of the struggles. How do you reach the younger veteran to get them to realize that? It's the same problems they had in the 60s, the same problems they had in the 70s. It's the same problem. Is there an easy answer to that? No. I think one of the things that we like to do with the social media and getting those out into the younger groups, if you will. DAV does a great part of that. The VFW, we see the commercials. We're getting out there and doing that. With the colleges, the junior colleges, the Sentinels of Freedom, what they just did with LMC, and what they're going to be doing with DVC and Contra Costa community colleges. It's another way to reach that younger veteran. So, you know, it ebbs and flows, Kevin.
Yeah. And the real challenge is getting the newer veterans interested in wanting to belong to an organization. If you're injured when you get out of the military, you start looking for the help, and thank God we've got the DAV there to help. But if you're not that injured, you don't really want to go there. You said combat. We're not just, VFW is not just combat. Anybody who's served in the area can be there, not just combat veterans. And for us, the challenge is remaining relevant to the lives of people who are far younger than we are, certainly far younger than I am. Might even be younger than Nathan.
Yeah, certainly.
You know, being able to communicate to them in a way that is not easy for us to be able to do, but we're learning. And we're finding a way to use social media to be able to get the message out there. It's also staying current with regard to the services that are available and to the things that are covered, whether they're members of our organization or not. Being as a service officer, being able to recognize that a veteran who has this particular kind of a problem is going to be taken care of if they go to the right place and they speak in the right way to the right person. They will have the service that they need. A good example of that would be Agent Orange, that for the longest time wasn't even recognized. Well, now when you look at Agent Orange registry, you've got type 2.5 pages single-spaced of all of the things that are covered, because of people like me who were exposed to this. Things change, so staying relevant with the information, staying relevant with the veterans who are out there. It's also staying out there as we get older, staying out there and seeing to it that the community sees the veterans that they have in their community.
Is there kind of a challenge outside of these organizations themselves with fraternity organizations recruiting younger generation? You know, the young veteran that gets out who's 22 years old, are they focused on going to school, building a family, getting a job?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Certainly there's some of those external struggles that they have.
That's what we did when we got out. We had interests, normal interests, that were taking our time and our attention away from being a veteran. It wasn't until some of that was settled, my twins were born as a good example, when I could find the time and wanted the interest to be more of a veteran in the community. So.
If anyone could find time, it's someone with twins.
Tell me about it.
You know, and I think another important factor, and I'm sure you all do this, but when I work yellow ribbon events or TAP events, and I'm with recently returning service members, the people that listen the most to what I have to say and to the benefits and resources that CalVet provides are the family members. And sometimes the best way to reach the veteran is through family events and being able to reach out to the family members and explain to them that there's some place and some support that they could find to help, you know, their veteran.
What's the opportunity for these organizations for the family members?
Yeah, all of the organizations have auxiliary units as well to join that.
We also have dinners that we organized 11 months out of the year where children are not just invited, they're expected, as you well understand.
I do understand. My kids have been there. You guys cook phenomenal meals, Murph.
I still remember bringing my twins in a twin McLaren stroller to that old Veterans Building at First Street and wheeling them through the doors and having the oohs and ahs of all the veterans and their ladies assembled at the meeting for the dinner, right? That's wonderful.
Well, that's fantastic. And we want to thank you both for being on the show with us tonight and for sharing what your organizations do with not only with us, but with our viewers. And at this point, we'd like to share something with our viewers, and that's Soaring Valor, a short documentary starring Gary Sinise. Please enjoy.
Hi, sir.
Which is Gary Sinise?
I'm Gary Sinise.
Well, I'm told to take a picture of you.
Well, we will absolutely get a picture. You bet. We're at Los Angeles Airport for the Gary Sinise Foundation Soaring Valor event down to the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. Hey, everybody.
Lieutenant Dan.
Hello, sir. How are you, sir? Thank you for being here. We're going to have a good time getting to know each other.
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan, I'm all set.
In 26 years with American Airlines, I can't think of a day that resounds more strongly than today as we celebrate the freedom that we have as a country because of the sacrifices of the men in this room today.
We have the privilege today of taking about 45 World War II veterans. None of them have ever seen the National World War II Museum, and we're honored to be able to share this trip with them. And with great partners like American Airlines who offer us the transportation to take these heroes to New Orleans, we are able to do great things. This is the way to fly, huh? Enjoy your trip. A selfie. I'm serving some heroes here. Hello, sir. Can I interest you in some bread? That's a tasty little piece there. One of these, yeah, beautiful. That's good with the pasta there.
This would be a new experience for me. I'm overwhelmed just to be here with these old timers. They got a lot of stories, and I like the way they tell them.
Come on, sir. I guess they heard you were coming.
Just watching the World War II veterans come through the concourse was incredible. To watch the looks on the faces of the men and women serving today and the baseball teams that were here with us and just the general travelers in this airport, to welcome them to this region, it's just been phenomenal.
Gentlemen, I look at you and I think of the words of Stephen Spender's poem. You are men who in your lives fought for life and left the vivid air signed with your honor. Welcome to the World War II Museum.
Isn't that something?
There is a profound moral difference between the use of force for liberation and the use of force for conquest. You were here to liberate. All of you loved liberty. All of you were willing to fight tyranny, and you knew the people of your countries were behind you. Magnificent words from Ronald Reagan on the 40th anniversary of D-Day. We're all looking forward to the major portion of the tour, which starts with Beyond All Boundaries, the documentary that I had the privilege of doing the voice of Ernie Pyle in.
When Tom Hanks was working with me and Phil Hedema to develop our epic 4D experience, Beyond All Boundaries, Tom Hanks said, get Gary Sinise for Ernie Pyle, and it was perfect.
And all around below were the shadows, the dark shadows of buildings and bridges that formed the base of this dreadful masterpiece.
One word, wow.
I just loved every minute of it.
Everybody should see it. Everybody.
After they come out of Beyond All Boundaries, they'll go into the brand new exhibits that opened last December, The Road to Berlin, which will go through North Africa, Sicily, and Italy, and then sweep up into France and the D-Day invasions and penetrating deep into Germany. We'll tell that story from land, sea, and air, and how America's military might gradually came to bear to destroy the Third Reich.
It brings back a lot of memories, and it's real.
Then they'll go to the Louisiana Pavilion, where visitors begin the journey through World War II in a train station where everybody went to war or came home, and they'll actually enjoy a simulated ride. Then they'll go to the Kushner Restoration Pavilion, and they'll see PT-305.
We're restoring a Higgins PT boat that was built here in New Orleans in 1943.
It's going to be put in the water next summer. It's about 80% finished. Then the last place they will come to is the U.S. Freedom Pavilion, which tells the story of the military power through the planes and the tanks and the weapons of the war, as well as Medal of Honor exhibits and additional oral histories. Lunchtime will be a USO experience with our victory bells, so that'll be fun too.
A kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
I was embarrassed, yeah.
And when two lovers woo, they still say, I love you. On that you can rely.
The goal of this museum is to tell the American experience in World War II.
They're not going to plane after plane out of the sky.
The National World War II Museum prides itself on the oral history collection that we've acquired.
Well, Colonel, do you want to turn short? We got a long bomb run, we can turn short and then go right over that point.
The Gary Sinise Foundation provided funds that allows us to hire another historian. And it's a race against time because the vast majority of these gentlemen and ladies are in their late 80s and early 90s, and some of them are even older than that. We have to get these stories before they're lost forever.
None of us can ever take for granted what you did for all of us. God bless you, gentlemen.
God bless you.
Have a great trip back, everybody.
I'd like you to think back to when you were in the middle of World War II and you were waiting for those letters from home. It is now time for mail call.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank
come back. More fun than a barrel of monkeys.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. We'd now like to share a special interview we taped with Kelly Strong as part of our ongoing segment, A Veteran's Voice. Well, welcome back to Veterans Voices. I'm Nathan Johnson, your host of Veterans Voices, and tonight I'm joined by Kelly Strong, and this is our new segment, A Veteran's Voice. So Kelly, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your service in the military first.
I have a strange service record. I was in the Army for 4 years, and then I was in the National Guard for the rest of my 30-some years. I went in the Army in 1971.
Wow. And so how many years total?
35.
Wow, incredible. And most recently a tour in Iraq?
Yes, I was in Iraq from March of 03 till April of 04.
Okay, we were there at the same time then. Yeah, absolutely.
I was in Karbala, Najaf, and Abu Ghraib.
Well, great to have you here tonight. You and I met up recently, and we invited you to be a part of this segment. You've got a poem to share with us, and you want to talk a little bit about your newfound interest in playing music. So take it up.
Yes, I don't know if you can read that poem.
Yeah, sure.
Read it?
Sure, read the poem. That'd be great. Kelly read us the poem a little bit ago, and it's a little bit of a difficult poem to read, but it's based on your experience in Iraq, so it's a real poem.
Yeah, what happened was we were in Karbala, and the Marines were patrolling there, and they found a young girl that was being married. She didn't want to be married, and so her father scarred her face, and I had to suture it.
Okay.
It says, when your best is not good enough in Karbala, Iraq, when you were born, did your mom and dad love the creation they made? Did you have a fresh new baby smell? What was your name? When you were a toddler, did you crawl through the house? What was your favorite toy? Did you have a doll? What was your name? When you went to school, what was it like? Do you enjoy learning? Did you have a best friend? Did you play sports? Did you play music or like to dance? Your mom and dad arranged a marriage for you. They picked your husband. How did that feel? Did you know him, like him, love him? In time, did you find a boyfriend, someone else to love? On the day of your marriage, it was difficult, it was hard. You did not want to marry him. The young men from the United States Marine Corps came and they intervened. They took you and your mom away. Did you feel safe and secure? Did you and your mom embrace? Did it feel like a new start, a new beginning? Did you feel free for the first time? Your dad felt enraged. He must have felt betrayed. He roared for revenge. That beast came out of him. Fueled with hate, he stomped through the town looking for you and your mom, full of anger. He found you and your mom. You watched as he beat your mother. How do you feel? Did it feel to see your hit? Mom was just 13 years old when you were born. She was more of your friend than your mom. Your dad turned to you. You felt his wrath, his violence poured out of him. What did it feel like to be beat by your father? The blade of the knife cut on your face. What did it feel like as the blade drug across the bones of your face? Blood poured from your face and tears filled your eyes. Falling across your cheek and on the parched, dusty floor. Did you feel pain? Was your wound hot or dull? Were you in shock, too numb to feel? Did the pain matter? Did you just give up? I found you, I cared about you, I wanted to help. I saw you were in pain, shame, and embarrassed. This made me feel anger about your wound. I felt rage. I wanted justice. I wanted revenge. I turned to help. I placed my warm hands on your cold body, hoping your pain would leave your body and enter mine. I wanted to return your beauty. I wanted to make you whole again. Your mother's love placed a heavy weight on me. She wanted to go back in time and to stop the violence, to return you to a previous self. But all you had was me. I felt inadequate. I felt I was drowning. I was way over my head. My hands had no precision. They felt heavy on your face. I prayed to God, and I prayed to my God as your mother prayed to yours for intervention on your behalf. Alas, the scars of rage are deep. Mere mortals cannot ease the damage. My hands and prayers would not be answered. I could not repair the void of such rage and violence. Your father brought wrath upon you. The hours I tried failed. I am so sorry. My heart is so heavy, even 10 years ago. These years have not lightened your burden on me. I think of you often. Do you remember me? When you look in the mirror and see that scar that I prayed would not be there, I tried so hard, but I could not will the damage away. My hands had no precision. They were heavy on your face. Your repair was a drain on my strength. Every minute of labor, though in love, my hands felt cramped. Do you think of me? Do you feel my hope for you? Though we are thousands of miles apart, do you feel my shame that I could not do better for you? My hurt, my wish that you would be whole, that my feelings of hope and joy for you are not tarnished by the failure of not doing a better job for you. Sometimes in Karbala, Iraq, your best is not good enough. And I hope this young lady, I truly hope this young lady is better.
Well, thank you for reading that, Kelly. And part of what's helped you be better, you say, over the years was these horrific experiences, is learning how to play the piano. We have just about 2 minutes left, but tell us a little bit about playing the piano. How has that helped you?
Yeah, the piano, it's bizarre. I'm 62 years old, and I saw a saxophone in the garage, and I wanted to learn how to play music. So I started from the beginning. I went to school. I'm taking a class with Joan Ceffarelli. If you're ever going to take music, start at the bottom. Please start at the bottom. And Joan Ceffarelli, her first introduction to music class is absolutely fantastic.
Is that Los Medanos College in Pittsburgh?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
yeah, Los Medanos College. And I started out playing tinkering like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I found enjoyment in it. I found relief. I found a clarity of, I do use mindfulness at times. I find it's very mindful to play the piano. And the only problem is my wife hears the same music over and over again.
Sure.
Yeah. You
have to perfect it. You have
to perfect it. Actually, this is the first time that I played Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley for her on Valentine's Day. And then on her birthday, I played, I can't remember the song right now. It's a brain injury again. But I played it for her.
You're playing music for yourself to help you work through these experiences, and you're even sharing it with your loved ones. I think that's fantastic, and we're almost out of time here, but your ultimate goal is to do what?
I'm going to play Phantom of the Opera in 18 months at the Polytrauma Brain Unit in VA Martinez. In 18 months, I'm going to play there with a grand piano.
Fantastic. And tickets are free.
Tickets are free. Anybody who wants to come, they can come.
Well, we look forward to being there. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being here this evening. Thanks for reading the fantastic poem, for sharing your love, your newfound love and passion for music and how that's helped you. We appreciate that. Thank you for joining us. We'll be right back.
Memorial Day is May 30th, and it's a great time to get out there to see how your local veteran organizations are honoring the day. And we also count on you to make sure that your friends and families remember why we celebrate Memorial Day, that we remember this one day of the year, those service members that have given their all for their country. On our website's calendar, you'll find information for these and other upcoming veteran events. On May 21st, the 8th annual Walk of Honor will take place. This short walk honors and celebrates the service of our military veterans. Event check-in will take place at the Crockett Community Center at 8 a.m. Pleasant Hills Memorial Day observances will take place on May 30th at the Contra Costa County Veterans Monument at 1 p.m. Danville will be having its Memorial Day celebration at Oak Hill Park from 10:30 to 11:30. There will be live music, entertainment, and a ceremony including guest speakers and tributes. At 9 a.m. on May 30th, Pittsburgh will have a ceremony at the Multi-Wars Memorial. The city of Walnut Creek will honor the memories of those who gave their lives in service to our country at a Memorial Day observance on Monday, May 30th. The ceremony will begin at 10 a.m. at Civic Park.
Thank you, Kevin. We discussed a variety of veteran service organizations tonight. There will also be a list of these on our website. Veterans of Foreign Wars can be found at vfw.org. For more information or to volunteer for disabled American veterans, go to dav.org. We also had the American Legion, or supposed to have the American Legion represented tonight, but for information on their organization, you can find them at legion.org. The Veterans Service Office assists both veterans and their families. Call 925-313-1481 or visit our website for more information. We want to thank our guests and our viewers. This is Veterans Voices of Contra Costa, wishing you all a good evening, and thank you for serving.